Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanandi. How many of you are really new to this temple? Okay, that's helpful. How many of you were not here last week? Because this is part 2, so I need to know. Okay. Well, part 1 was a biographical sketch of the life of Srila BhaktiSiddantha Sarasvati Thakura. Srila BhaktiSiddantha Sarasvati Thakura was the spiritual master, the Diksha Guru of our founder Acharya, whose asana is over here. And Srila Prabhupada received Diksha in 1936 and carried forward with an instruction given to him by BhaktiSiddantha to take the message of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is on our altar. There's Radha Syamasundar, the large marble deities, and down to their right or to our left is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For those of you that are newer, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the inaugurator of this chanting of Hare Krishna, the Yuga Dharma means of elevation recommended in the scripture specifically for this age of Kali. The chanting of the holy name, Hare Nama, 3 times. Hare Nama eva kevalam kalo, nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva. That means 3 times, means absolute. Gatir anyata, there is not an anyata, another method to achieve the gati, the purpose, the mission of human life in this age of Kali, other than this Hare Nama, or vocative, chanting the name of Hari. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu propagated that message from the scripture throughout the land of India, and he predicted, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted, that the chanting of the holy name of Hari would be heard in every town and village in the world. That's a big assignment. Time passed, and an organization was developed by BhaktiSiddantha Saraswati Thakura to establish a stronghold, 64 temples, Gaudiya Mat temples throughout the land of India, and he wanted very much, as did the previous members of disciplic succession, to see this chanting went all over the world. So he gave the instruction to some, and specifically to Srila Prabhupada, to take that mission and deliver it to the English-speaking parts of the world, and then eventually to all the parts of the world. The every town and village message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the person from whom that instruction came directly was BhaktiSiddantha, and we're honoring his 150th appearance anniversary. So the biographical sketch last week was from the time of his birth and his activities. Amazing personality in his childhood and his youth and his mature stage and everything about him. Very, very amazing biographical sketch. He wrote extensively. Perhaps that's what he's most known for. His propagating of the holy name was equally important, and his giving instructions that this chanting and the teaching should be heard all over the world was also very important. We saw last week, this is just a little review, for his temples, he established a logo. And the logo showed these two paths of regulative devotional service and spontaneous devotional service, right within the logo. So on the right side, looking at the logo, there's the deity of Lakshmi, Narayana, and there's the worship according to the Pancharatriki Vidhi, the rules of the scripture for worshiping. And he taught them, and he installed deities and so forth, according to those vidhis, or the rules of bhakti, to attain the spiritual platform. And then over on this side of the logo was Srimad Bhagavatam. And down below was the mridanga and kartals, the musical instruments for propagating the chanting of the holy name. And in that little wedge of his logo was a printing press. Of course, printing presses in those days looked a little different than printing presses today, but you can see very clearly from the design that it's a printing press. That is to say, he placed great value to disseminate the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and the various bhakti shastras, the scriptures in relation to service to the Supreme Lord, through the medium of printed word. He spoke extensively, and many of those words that he spoke were later transposed or transformed or transcribed into printed literatures. And what we're going to do this evening is give you some samples of what you see in this little sketch. He's at a desk. He's looking at you, or us. And one of the ways that he gave personal instructions to many, many, many was in the form of his writings to specific disciples. Now, there's a distinction between specific writings to specific disciples and scripture and commentary on scripture, because scripture and commentary on scripture is for everyone, and the letters and personal instructions wasn't necessarily for everyone, just like the instruction to Prabhupada to take these teachings to the English-speaking parts of the world, because he was proficient in English, even as a young man. So that was a personal instruction. So many of the instructions, there are books with his letters and writings from his books and from his letters that we're going to have a look at just now. So we're going to get a little snapshot of basically one-liners. And then a few more things we'll hear. So this is part 2. The teachings of BhaktiSiddantha and choice words that he used to give some of these teachings. And there's many. This is just a small selection. So practical instruction. We are put to test and trial in this world. Only those who attend the kirtan of the devotees can succeed. Now, why is that? Because it's the Yuga Dharma. And those who engage in the Yuga Dharma, the means of achieving satisfaction of the Supreme Lord for this age, that spiritual connection is established. And when spiritual connection is established, then you're protected. Because I'll say a few things about each one of these slides until we run out of time, then I'll just go fast forward. But all living entities without exception are parts of the Supreme. Yes? According to Bhagavad Gita. Mam eva angsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. All living entities are angsas, or fragmental parts. The whole and the fragmental parts of the whole. So the fragmental parts of the whole, unfortunately, those that are in this material atmosphere have forgotten their connection with the whole. And because of that, there's lots of trials and tribulations. But those who are established in that connection, the part unto the whole, they can succeed because they're not alone. Or just like many little children are moving around the temple room here, and they're holding their hand of their father and their mother. One child came in holding the hand of the mother on this hand, the hand of the father on that hand, and the father pulled back his hand and said, "Go with your mother." And the child was going. He was obedient though, so he went with his mother. So when we're holding the hand of our protector, we're safe. Even if there's some danger, the protector will protect you at all costs. That's just the nature of what to speak of. That protector is all powerful. And there are so many nice things to say about that, but we're going to move on. Every spot on earth where discourses on God are held is a place of pilgrimage. This is a nice building, and we call it a temple. We call it a temple because discourses on the personality of Godhead are held. Over there, there's a building, and over there, there's a building. We don't call them temples. Or many of our temples, in the early days especially, were just homes. Like the Denver Temple. It's a house on the middle of a row of residential properties. And there's a house, and there's a house, and in the middle is a temple, or a place of pilgrimage. What makes it a place of pilgrimage? Of course, there's a deity, but even before there were deities, it was a temple. Because a place worthy of going for purification, because the means of purification is, most importantly, that discourse on the topics of transcendence, just as we're attempting to do this evening. And with each of these slides, there's another photograph of BhaktiSiddantha in different moods, at different times of his life. Possession of objects not related to Krishna is our main malady. Well, and in one sense, what is there that exists that's not in relation to Krishna? Answer: everything that exists is in relation to Krishna, so there's nothing that exists to get attached to that's not related to Krishna. But if you think that it's not related to Krishna, that's the problem. Trying to proprietorship the I am this body, and mind is that which is in relation to the body, the products of this body, like my work and the income that I receive from my work, the fruits of my work, or my family and the things that I buy with my money, my house, my car, my this and my that. So the I and mine consciousness, that's his point. Seeing separate from Krishna, that's the main malady. Because we want to be the enjoyer. To be the enjoyer, there's objects. And being the enjoyer of objects, not seen in relation to Krishna, that's the disease of material life. A theme, I'll give a little example of this one. Let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. Now maybe some of you don't have any enemies. But if you become successful, you're guaranteed you're going to have enemies. Guaranteed. Even if you're not successful, you can have enemies, but you become successful. So BhaktiSiddantha was very successful. And there are people that wanted to kill him because they were envious, and he spoke things that went against what they saw was their interests, rather than detailing, because we did it last Sunday, you can hear the recording. But there was a murder plot to kill him. And the place where they were attempting, the planned murder was in the city of Navadvip. A little background. The birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, several hundred years ago, all of a sudden they said it's in this place called Navadvip. And because it was the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it became a city. And the income of the city had a lot to do with this being the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And, when it comes to money, people get very touchy and delicate. So what happened was BhaktiSiddantha's father was involved with he was the high court judge in Puri during his peak of his administrative days. So he had access to government records, and he was looking at government records, and he saw, this is detail, he saw that this city of Navadvip was new, and previously the course of the Ganges, listen carefully, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's departure, he saw from maps, historical maps, that the course of the Ganges shifted, and what was the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became underwater under the Ganges, because it shifted in an easterly direction. And after some time, the Ganges again shifted and moved back close to where it was during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time. And all the records, part 2, all the records of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's childhood and his early life was his birthplace, the place of his mother and father, was on the eastern side of the Ganges. But the Ganges course shifted, and where his home was now under the Ganges. And then when the Ganges again shifted back, this place, Navadvip, became known as the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although it was on the western side of the Ganges. 2 + 2 didn't equal 16. So there was something wrong with the math. And then some other things happened. And BhaktiSiddantha, his father established that the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in fact on the eastern side of the Ganges. And he had a vision one night, an effulgent light at night from a rooftop in Navadvip he could see. So he followed that light and found what he accepted was the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he asked around, how come there's no structures on this? And the villagers said, they were agriculturalists, He said, nothing grows there. Only tulsis grow there. No rice, no potatoes. You can't grow anything there. Only tulsis will grow, so it's useless. So that led him to other events happened. He brought Jagannath Das Babaji to that spot, who was nearly 100 years of age at that time. He couldn't walk. He had to be carried in a basket. No taxis. He was carried in a basket. And he jumped out of the basket and confirmed that this is the place. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur, BhaktiSiddantha's father, established a little temple. And he requested BhaktiSiddantha to build a formal permanent temple. When they were digging, listen carefully, they're digging in the area for the foundation for the temple, they found buried deep into the earth, which was previously the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but for some time had been underwater, so it had been covered by Ganges mud for a long time, was the original deity, Adhoksaja Vishnu deity, that was worshipped by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's father. Archaeological finding. Confirming. So BhaktiSiddantha was strong and fearless and propagating, this is the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And part of the place they spread that good news was in Navadvip. So the pundits and the people whose livelihood was dependent upon misinformation, the birthplace of Mahaprabhu was over there in Navadvip, they decided to kill him. So before they went to kill him, they offered the police a bribe. And the police responded, no, we're going to do this, so look the other way, please. Because it was going to be found out if he was killed, who did it. So look the other way, please. And they said, we accept bribes, but he's a sadhu. We can't accept this bribe. You may do what you want to do, but we're not going to take a bribe. So the plan was, BhaktiSiddantha, who we're speaking about, who doesn't desire anything but the highest good for his worst enemies, they attacked the hired gundas, the hitmen, as we say in the West, got their weapons and started attacking the devotees. They had Harinam Sankirtan, big Sankirtan. And BhaktiSiddantha was in the Sankirtan party. And the devotees understood they're after him. So one of the devotees was a householder. Many of the devotees were householders. And he had similar stature as BhaktiSiddantha. So he suggested, why don't we change clothes? We'll go into a hidden place. You take my grahastha clothes, I'll take your sannyas clothes, so you'll be safe, because they're after you. So they agreed, they changed clothes. BhaktiSiddantha went back to his headquarters, which is now on the eastern side of the Ganges. And the police found out about the attempted murder and the beating up and harming of all the other Vaishnavas. So they found out who did it and they arrested them. And then they went to BhaktiSiddantha, would you like to press charges? He said, no. I only desire the highest good for my worst enemies. What he said was, they got us so much publicity. This was all over the newspapers, and there's no social media or any of that stuff at that time, but so much acclaim for the chanting of the holy name. We couldn't have done anything to get all that good coverage. So you send them my thanks. No, I don't want to press charges. And he lived his life that way. He didn't just say it and did something else. He was a very magnanimous person, No, if somebody needed to be corrected, he would certainly correct them. As dalliance with the body in luxury increases, so wanes the spirit of service to the Lord. Now, he was a very successful, prominent, powerful sadhu. And what happens sometimes is persons like that get praise, they get donations, he could live a comfortable life, but he didn't live a comfortable life. Whatever he received was for Krishna's service. He never dallied with luxury. And we had heard some details last Sunday, the degree of austerity that he underwent. He wasn't just a sannyasi, but he was extremely renounced. Extremely successful and extremely renounced and very humble. I thought it would happen before class. I started coughing. I thought, oh. I quote this often. Well, when the circumstances are right. Some people don't want to hear this. But persons that are capable of hearing it, they're passing through some difficulty. Why is this happening? Those favored by God find their paths set by thorns. I don't know what to do. My voice is not clearing. There's no peace or happiness in our worldly life. Circumstances create. I don't know what to do. If I continue speaking, it's just going to keep getting irritated. Maybe I'll just let somebody else read. Somebody have a microphone? Yeah, please.
Chant the Mahamantra loudly and with attachment. This will drive away inertia, worldly evils, and pests.
Some pests don't go away just by Mahamantra. For a month, I was at an Ayurvedic clinic in Kerala. And it was that season where these little black bugs, a zillion of them, and And where they came from, I don't know. And it was every day and every day and every day. They didn't go away from chanting Hare Krishna. So some pests, maybe people pests. The Mahamantra, sometimes there's this, I have, thank you, Window, thank you. Sometimes there's discussion about whether the Mahamantra should be chanted, and there are different ways of chanting, in the mind, or whispering, or very softly, or very loudly. Of course, if you're in a public place, you don't want to chant too loudly. But if you're in a place that you can, here's some authority, BhaktiSiddantha, speaking about the merit of chanting loudly, and we discussed it already with attachment in our local classes here, with attachment. Meaning, if there's attachment to an object that's spiritual, it naturally leads to detachment from the temporary. And when there's detachment from the temporary, inertia, worldly evils, and pests go away.
Be indifferent to bizarre gossips. Stick firmly to your cherished goals. No lack or impediments of the world will ever stand in our way.
There's always, we were discussing in our local classes here, obstacles are for everybody. Whether you're Prahlad Maharaj or Dhruva Maharaj or Maharaj Ambarish or whoever you might be, Vaikunthavasi, Vrindava, Vrajavasis, or a great acharya, or just an everyday fellow or lady, there's going to be obstacles. Worldly impediments cannot check the flow of bhakti. They can't create, they cannot check the flow of bhakti. And it's really easy to get distracted on the path of spiritual life. Stay fixed on your goal, spiritual goals particularly, cherished goals.
Pay due respects to the extroverts of the world, but do not be appreciative of their manners and conduct. They are to be shaken off from your mind.
No, we heard something not too dissimilar from Ramanujacharya in his parting instructions, because today was the disappearance day, or commemorating the disappearance day of Ramanujacharya. So he gave many instructions about conduct and virtues to live by. So being respectful to all living entities is one of them, but while respecting all living entities, it's advised to not become too much affected by strange behavior or extroverts or people that are wanting to get your attention by some strange behavior. So don't let it stick in your mind, and don't take on those qualities yourself. I have a bottle of water, warm water. Got a Tulsi leaf in it too. This will do the trick.
A devotee feels the presence of God everywhere, but one averse to the Lord denies his existence anywhere.
That's pretty simple. I heard something recently, I just share it in this connection. From Padma Purana, there's a description of Lord Nrsingadev's appearance, just like there is in Srimad Bhagavatam and many other Puranas. And one verse from Padma Purana is, when Hiranyakashipu was trying to kill Prahlad, he sent his men with weapons in their hands that were lethal weapons. Wasn't just, a clandestine murder plot. It was a little boy and his powerful father. So that the prayer in Padma Purana is Prahlad is praying to the weapons. Within you, a form of the Lord is present. And because the form of the Lord is present, and the Lord is my protector, I know that these weapons will not harm me. So he was able to remember the personality of Godhead's presence even in the course of danger. And one who has the presence of God everywhere has nothing to fear. But those who are averse to the Lord, that's another story. That's a position of bhaya. Bhayam dutiyam abhiniveshitak syat. Next.
You cannot appreciate transcendental matters with the reasoning of the world. It is sheer nonsense to decry them with the measuring stick of your intellect.
Does anyone doubt that this is true? No, intelligence is something respected and is revered and is valuable. But intellect can't penetrate into transcendence. And there may be truths that make sense, like reincarnation is a truth that makes sense. Transmigration of the soul is very sensible. Some people can't accept it, but it's quite sensible. But there's many other things that are... How do you sort through the transcendental truths of, let's say, the procedure of creation? And so many things. And to deny them because I can't understand them is, as he's saying here, nonsense. Next.
To recite the name of Sri Krishna is bhakti.
So, please chant. Next.
Life is for the glorification of topics on Hari. If that is stopped, then what need is there to carry on life?
He's attached, BhaktiSiddantha was attached and transferring through his life and his teachings that attachment to Harikatha. And one of the things we heard last week is to prove his point. Once, when visiting one city, forget the city, for 1 month he spoke on one verse of Srimad Bhagavatam for 2 hours every morning and didn't repeat himself any time. He was a connoisseur of speaking about the topics of transcendence. And he induced others by his deep love and appreciation for that activity. There's life in those topics. Next.
Physical illness with Hari Bhajan is preferred to physical fitness without Hari Bhajan.
One of our devotees, I won't mention their name, has had a long-standing illness that's been very problematic. He went to the same Ayurvedic clinic that I went to, and he's 90% better. May he go the other 10%. But please pay attention to what it says. No, which is better? No, illness is not to be dallied with. You deal with it. But better to have physical fitness with Hari Bhajan. Next.
Our span of life on earth is short. A life will be crowned with success if the body wears out with constant discourses on Hari.
As you can see, he's a fond lover of Harikatha. Here's a teaching. In the propagation of the holy name, he explained that the chanting of the holy name is Hari. But Hari is not worshipped alone. Hari is worshipped with his consort, Shakti. So Radha, Krishna, or Sita Ram, or Lakshmi Narayan. And as deity worship is done that way, so also the chanting of the holy name is to be accompanied by Harikatha, because that's the Shakti of the Supreme Lord through sound. Just like the Vedas are Shruti, there's female. So Harikatha, the sound vibration of Hari, goes well with the chanting of the holy name. Next.
We are here on earth not to work as artisans for making big buildings with wood and stone, but to work only as messengers for the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Deva.
And he lived his life accordingly. From his childhood, he had that training, he had the acumen, he had the skill, and his whole life was completely dedicated to the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and passed it on to our founder Acharya, who has passed it on to us, and we're being encouraged to pass it on to others as well. Next.
A sycophant is neither a guru nor a preacher.
Now, BhaktiSiddantha, English was not his first language. But if you read BhaktiSiddhanta's writings, you better have a dictionary. So I had to look this one up. And the dictionary definition is someone who praises powerful or rich people in a way that is not sincere, usually in order to get some advantage from them, like a flatterer. You flatter somebody because you want something from that somebody, and it's not genuine, it's just you want some favor from them. So don't be like that, is his advice. Now the photograph is, he's next to a king. Now during his time there were still kings, and he volunteered to become the librarian of that king because he didn't want to do what many young people are expected to do, get a job, get married, and have a family, and get tied down to all of that. He didn't want that, so he took the association of this king, and the king became a great devotee. Another?
To transform the adverse desires of the jivas is the supreme duty of the Most Merciful. To rescue one person from the stronghold of Mahamaya is an act of superb benevolence, far superior to opening innumerable hospitals.
In this particular photograph, we see him with a beard and some hair, and otherwise we see him with the shaved head. Because during the 4 months of the rainy season, the Chaturmasya, he observed very strict austerity. One of those austerities was not shaving. Another austerity was, we mentioned this last week, he ate, for the 4 months of the rainy season, he ate 1 meal a day, unsalted khichdi. Try it. Try 1 meal with unsalted khichdi. You want salt, because it's not so palatable. And the system that he followed was, he put his hands behind his back. He wouldn't eat with his hands. He ate only with his mouth, like a horse. And to eat khichdi with your mouth, without your hands or a spoon, he leaned over. And the rule was, when you sit up, that's it. So when you lean over, what happens to the size of your stomach? It shrinks. So for 4 months, that's what he did. And his beard got a little messy too. And then he shaved at the end of the 4 months. So that's a comment about this particular photograph. He placed much more value in the giving Harikatha, or the message of transcendence, rescuing souls from their bondage to material existence, than opening hospitals or starting schools or something. Philanthropy was to the soul. Next.
Unless we are devoted to God, secularism shall not leave us.
The photograph is this, what you saw, the opening slide. He's leaning over a desk, very simple desk, and he's writing whatever he's writing, a letter to a devotee or some text or something. And he was certainly capable. This beyond secularism was a fundamental platform. I mentioned this last week. One of his many books was a book describing how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to unite the four sampradayas. According to Padma Purana, there are four sampradayas, one from Lord Brahma, one from Lord Shiva, one from the four Kumaras, one from the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi or Shri, the Shri Sampradaya, these other sampradayas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted and drew teachings from each of these four sampradayas. And this was a key message for BhaktiSiddantha, to go beyond secularism. And the medium for that is genuine devotion to God, as he's writing here. Next.
Look within, amend yourself, rather than prying into the frailties of others.
Premananda, what's my cutoff time? 5 more minutes? Uh-oh. I was going to tell you a nice story, but I can't tell you a nice story, so. We'll go on. But it's a nice story. I'm going to tell you a nice story. I'm at slide 23 of 31. Eight minutes. Okay, she just gave me 3 more minutes. Quickly, I'll try. The very first, as a college student, the very first Krishna conscious literature I received was a Back to Godhead magazine that featured an article by BhaktiSiddantha. Long story short, it had very high language. It took me 3 hours to read the article. The title of the article, I had to look up 3 of the words. The Bhagavad is morphology and ontology. And then everything else was on that level of language. And in the course of 3 hours, being a college kid, I knew how to study and look things up and write things in the margin. And the Back to God magazine was filled just like a textbook that I had studied from. And I didn't really understand after 3 hours, but I felt this person has taken my consciousness to a place that I've never experienced before just by reading this article. And it wasn't because it was technical, it's because the source was transcendental. I understood that. So from that very first introduction, my esteem, my regard for BhaktiSiddantha was always, and still is, very high. Fast forward in time, I'm living in the Boston Temple. and in their ashram. And one devotee who had come from India, named Guru Das, celebrated disciple of Prabhupada, and he had all these wonderful Prabhupada stories to tell of where he had gone and what Prabhupada was doing, and lots of oohs and ahs and laughter, and it was very joyful. So I saw that he was carrying a bunch of books, and I like books, so I asked him, "Can I look at your books?" He said, "Yes." First one was a BhaktiSiddantha book. I opened up the book, and I didn't get to read it because I got stopped at the very first, the introductory phrase said something like this. It was a little different. A Vaishnava is not one who finds fault in others, for by finding fault in others, that person is only indicating that their own heart is honeycombed with that very same fault. Meaning, if you're a transcendentalist, you don't see you can discriminate, but you don't find fault because you're a transcendentalist. But if you're not, that means, if you're a fault finder, it means your heart is filled with that fault, honeycombed with that fault. And then space. Rather, a Vaishnava is always one who looks within. Because make yourself whole, and make yourself pure, make yourself a proper instrument of Lord Chaitanya and the personality of Godhead. That's our business. Fault finding is not our business. Amend yourself rather than pry into the frailties of others. Next.
This world of Maya, averse to the Lord, full of trials and tribulations, only patience, humility, and respect for others are for Hari Bhajan.
Now, because the hands of the clock are continuing to move, I'm just going to let you read. Go ahead.
The Lord Gaurasundara puts his devotees in various difficulties and associations to test their patience and strength of mind. Success depends on their good fortune.
These are very nice sayings to live by, yes? Yeah. Read.
When faults in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect, and find faults in yourself. Know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself.
Now, I know somebody whose profession is trauma therapy. And this is one of their favorite sayings. So if you have trauma or you know somebody that has trauma, remember this one. Next.
I wish that every selfless, tender-hearted person of the Gaudiya Math will be prepared to shed 200 gallons of blood for the nourishment of the spiritual corpus of every individual of this world.
Compassionate. And I'm going to go fast forward to Brahma Samhita. One of his writings was commentary on Sri Brahma Samhita. And if technology cooperates, I'm going to have you hear his language. This is Prabhupada reading from the foreword of Sri Brahma Samhita.
The materialistic.
Guess what? It's not working.
The materialistic.
Oh, fooey. Oh well, time is up anyways. It's really nice. Let me try it again. Okay.
The materialistic demeanor cannot possibly the transcendental autocrat who is ever inviting the fallen conditioned soul to associate with him through devotion or eternal serving mode. The phenomenal attractions are often found to attain sentient being to enjoy the variegated position which is opposed to undifferenced monism. People are so much apt to indulge in transitory speculation even when they are to educate themselves on the situation beyond their empiric area or experiencing jurisdiction, and almost foolishly they dare to declare that God is dead. The songs of Brahma Samhita as Chintamani Prakara Sadvasu will surely help such souls in their march toward the personality of Godhead in the spiritual kingdom, which is lying beyond their sensuous gaze of inspection.
That's Prabhupada reading the high language of BhaktiSiddantha that's taken directly from the foreword of Sri Brahma Samhita. I did that just to give you a little sampling of his elevated language. There's different ways of doing that, but Prabhupada gave us that recording very, very early in the Hare Krishna movement with dedication to BhaktiSiddantha. And as it says here also in the foreword, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost of the authoritative literature amongst the Vedas, and this Brahma Samhita has the same idea. It's in the literature category of a Pancharatra. And here's our last slide. Give up pride, the weed that chokes the creeper of devotion. And there's lots of things to say, but time is up, and I'll yield the microphone to Premananda. What?
It is 6:33. If you want to take one or two questions.
Really? You're so merciful. Okay, any comments or questions? Over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for the very amazing, powerful messages of BhaktiSiddantha Sarasvati Thakura. Maharaj, how do we reflect on the phrase, "Others cannot harm you unless we harm ourselves"? That phrase.
You like that one too, huh? It's true. It's true. So you wanted me to expand on that, or what would you like?
Well, it seems like others can harm us, even if we don't harm ourselves. So how do we understand that?
It's not speaking of physical harm. It's speaking of the other kinds of harm. Victim consciousness is very common, but it's the mind that makes us become the victim. It's not the words or deeds of others. No, physical harm is yet another, like the murder attempt. So that's different. But he was protected. And so the sense of being protected by the supreme powerful person is where we should take our shelter. And my understanding of this particular message is not physical, but all the other kinds of harm that one might do to another. Anything else?
I just wanted to repeat on this point, Guru Maharaj, what I've often heard from you, from Viktor Frankl. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way.
Yeah, that's a different author, but
Same
message. Same message. Okay, Premananda, take it away.
Maharaj, what is spiritual corpus? What is spiritual corpus?
Spiritual corpus, your spiritual form. Corpus, form, body,
Okay.
spiritual form. Siddha Deha.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Please give a warm applause. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for giving us your wonderful association and so many speeches on Srila BhaktiSiddantha Saraswati Thakur, as well as other classes. We are very fortunate to have your association. In the interest of time, I'll quickly announce two things. One is about the Sunday feast sponsorship. So let me just see. Sunday Mahabhog all-day program is sponsored today by Sri Vatsan and Jay Shri Ji, celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary. Are they here? No. Okay. There are 5 families celebrating five families sponsoring Sunday feast. First is someone who wants to remain anonymous, seeking devotees' blessings. Tripti Singh celebrating birthday of husband Manindra Singh, father Naveen Singh, and brother-in-law Rajesh Dadhiya. I think I saw Manindra here. He is one of our architects who was with us from the very beginning of designing this building, and he's part of our architectural team. Is Manindra here or Tripti? Tripti is here. Thank you so much, Tripti. And Tripti is also part of our child protection team. Chintamani Dasi and family seeking blessings of their lordships and devotees for sons Digvijay and Abhijay. Chintamani, you are here? Okay, Abhijay is here. And Anamika, her husband Ratan Ghosh, I think it is 5th death anniversary. Anamika. And one more family, Ratan Ghosh, it just says death ceremony, February 13th. Ratan Ghosh and family. Ratan Ghosh, yeah, please come and receive prasadam. Thank you so much, devotees. As you can see, whether it is in memory of those who have departed or we are celebrating birthdays or anniversaries, everything we do by glorifying their lordships. So kindly chant the holy names after me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There is no other shelter for any of us in this world other than this shelter of the holy name. Thank you all for sponsoring, and this is a great service, and you can contact Ramdas Prabhu. Where is he? I don't know. In case if you want to sponsor in the coming weeks. Like as in the previous weeks, I will continue this announcement. Our devotees are doing their best to keep this temple up and running. And I know that many of you who are part of congregation, extended congregation, lot of you here has come forward to be part of the monthly donorship program, and it is so essential to keep our lights on, to keep the temple warm during winter periods and cool during summer for their lordships and for the congregation. So this is an important service, and I have seen your heartfelt appreciation for my announcements happening in the past few weeks. I have seen many of you have come forward, and first of all, I wanted to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you who is supporting this temple. This is a great opportunity, so those who can, according to your capacity, please do so. Downstairs on your way to Prasadam, there is a table set up. Her Grace Sumangala Devidasi and Sanatan Prem Das Prabhus will be there. And if you find it in your heart that you want to see this temple kept very beautiful for the service of their lordships, please open your heart and support the temple. Thank you. Hare Krishna.